Hey Isaac, you start the recording.
Recording in progress.
Okay. I'm going to call tonight's meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals to order. I'd like to welcome everybody in the audience and those of you who are here online. Before we go any further, I'm going to make an announcement. The CDC recommends vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals wear a face mask indoors while in public. The city requires masks in City Hall for all employees, board and commission members, and the public. KN95 respirators, a 3-ply mask will be provided to everyone attending public meetings. Okay, Mr. Johnson, I understand we have a new employee that you're going to introduce to us?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. Not necessarily a new employee,
okay, but a new position?
I'd like to introduce Heather Tolliver, who is starting to assume a lot of Brigitte Moran's roles. Okay. So you've gotten emails from Heather so far, but Heather has worked for the city now for 4 years, I think, as of tomorrow. Okay. Came from the city of Flat Rock. She's been doing an excellent job, but she's going to start helping out with the BZA responsibility. So I just wanted to introduce Heather, and I know she wanted to, put some face with some names here. That you'll be communicating with her as we're doing the attendance and things like that, and sending out agendas.
And thank you in advance for your patience while I learn this process.
We'll try not to give you a hard time. Okay. The zoning board hears 3 types of matters. One is called a dimensional variance, which includes signage, and in order for the applicant to get a dimensional variance, they need to show a practical difficulty and get 4 affirmative votes. The second type of matter we hear is what's called a use variance. The applicant needs to show a hardship, and you need to get 5 affirmative votes in order to get a use. And finally, the third type of matter we hear are appeals from decisions of city officials or boards. And in that case, the applicant must establish abuse of discretion and, again, get 4 affirmative votes to overturn the decision of either the decision of a city official or one of the other boards. Our procedure is that a presentation is given by the Community Development Department. The board members are then given an opportunity to question the presenter. After that, the appellant is asked to come up to the podium over here and make his or her presentation. We allow one person to speak on behalf of the petitioner unless we need technical advice from somebody else, and then we'll allow somebody else to speak on behalf of the petitioner. After the petitioner has made his or her presentation, the board members will be given an opportunity to question the petitioner. Once the board members have all their questions answered, we then open it up to public comment. So if you're in the audience and you want to speak regarding a given appeal, you will be given an opportunity. Again, we ask you to come up to the podium. You need to state your name and address for the record, indicate whether you're in favor or opposed to the appeal, state the reasons why you were for or against it. All comments are to be directed to me. You need to spend no more than 3 minutes commenting, and each speaker will be allowed to speak once on a specific appeal. After we've had all public comments, the applicant will be given an opportunity, the petitioner, to respond to the comments of the public. Once public comment is closed, then we take no further comments from the public or the applicant unless so requested by a board member. A motion is then made to either grant or deny the requested variance or whatever the appeal is. All right, now we're going to take roll call for the board members.
Charles Lowley.
Here.
Jason Condenser.
Here.
Kevin Hart.
Here.
John Miller.
Here.
Eric Morgenroth.
Here.
Ron Reddy.
Here.
Here, Yellow.
Here.
Okay, we have a full board. Now we're going to take roll call for the petitioners. Is there somebody here on 1748 Stanley?
Yes, this is Bruce Bloomingdale.
Okay, thank you. On 1687 Quarton.
Yeah, Adam Spector.
All right. 633 West Frank.
David Popelier.
Thank you. 270 South Glenhurst. Okay. And 1563 Lakeside.
Jeff Dawkins.
Okay, thank you. One thing I also want to mention, for those of you who are attending this meeting on Zoom or some other device, if you want to make public comment or any kind of a comment, you either need to hit the raise hand device on the Zoom, or if you're on your cell phone, you hit *9 in order so we know that you'd like to speak. And at that point, you will be unmuted. Okay. Is there any correspondence that doesn't apply to any of the appeals?
There is not.
All right. This one letter, has that been passed on?
One letter was passed out regarding the variance request for 633 Frank.
Right. Was it given to the petitioner?
I believe it just was.
Okay.
And then you had an elevation here for the home on Lakeside that the appellant provided, and I believe this shows the elevation of the house that was granted a variance in February.
Okay. All righty. Board members, you have before you the minutes from last month's meeting. Any corrections or anything? Mr. Cramster?
Sure. On page 1, third paragraph where it says Vice Chair Canvasser took roll call to petitioners. The next sentence, should say all petitioners were present and agreed to have their appeals heard at the present meeting.
Okay. Any other corrections? Okay. A motion, Mr. Morganroth?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second?
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, yes? You-
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes as corrected. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed by the same. And I'm abstaining because I wasn't here last month, so.
We don't have to abstain anymore.
We don't have to abstain?
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that has been clarified, and you don't have to.
Things change. Where you going? Okay. So, let's get started. Calling appeal 2208, 1748 Stanley.
Chuck Zilke here to present case 22-08, property known as 1748 Stanley. Request the following variance to construct a new detached garage. Variance A, Chapter 126, Article 4.03B of the zoning ordinance requires that accessory structures are not permitted closer to the principal residential building on adjoining lots than the sum of the minimum required side setbacks. The required is 14 feet, the proposed is 10.80 feet, therefore a variance of 3.2 feet is being requested. A little history on this one, there is a building permit that was granted on this, and there is a detached garage that met the zoning. It was further in, and it did meet the 14 feet from the neighboring property. And as it was going and some thought process to it, they were asking to move it closer to the side yard to the minimum of 3 feet that would be in the zoning ordinance. And that's why they're here tonight to ask for that variance. And the plan up here right now is the new proposed, and I flip the next one, you can kind of see it get shoved back a little further into the backyard, and that's why they're asking for the variance to move the garage a little closer to the lot line, make it a little easier to get in and out of the garage.
Can you go back to the previous one? Sure. Did they have the cut on the corner of the house on both of them? They did, okay.
Yeah, it's just moving the garage.
Okay.
Any questions?
This is supposedly caused due to an issue with DTE.
Correct. With the clearance, the distance that they're requiring was 11.5, and it's pulling up from, typically in the past it was 6 feet, and that's where the issue's kind of coming up.
Okay, so the garage on the property to the south, I assume that was built before the DTE changed their requirements?
Correct. I don't know exactly the year it was built, but yes.
Okay.
I think the existing, or the previous existing garage on this site was at 3 feet, but 11.5 feet forward, so.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I'm looking at, the driveway is obviously coming in on the south side of the existing lot, and I'm looking at the adjacent lot. That garage and driveway are also on the south side. So, in the, sure, that even if the neighbor to the south wanted to, say, rebuild their garage, I'm just looking at, I guess the question is, how might that affect the next door neighbor? It seems with the driveways on the south side that the impact is pretty minimal on the adjacent lot in terms of the distance. And on that adjacent lot also, that garage is much further back. Is that because it was built long ago?
Yes, the one to the south it was, and if it was, that one property to the south was removed and they went the garage to the other side, I don't know 100% for sure. It would probably create an issue for the distance between structures on that falling lot to the south, like flipping and putting the driveway up on that end.
Okay, but I was wondering why the DTE line wouldn't have affected that house to the south.
I think that, DTE's really been enforcing their regulations. They may have amended it probably 15 years ago, like long before that existing garage, or after that existing garage was constructed. And now, when we're issuing permits, we would require a DTE clearance letter, so they are caught more often than previously.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Morganroth?
Jeff, do we assume that this cut in the corner of the foundation and the roof on the side of the home is really to accommodate the ability to get into this garage? Because they obviously didn't have a lot of choices between the distance between the DTE issue and then just getting access to the garage. Is that a fair assumption?
I would think that'd be a fair assumption. I know the appellant can confirm that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they had to cut into their mudroom and everything, so it kind of demonstrates the challenge they were having getting this garage to work on the property and be able to access the garage. I have a similar situation at my house where I have to kind of navigate around to get my cars in and out, so I can see how this cut is almost forced by the positioning of the garage. And is the property that the 10.8 goes to, is that conforming where it currently sits?
That is conforming for the side yard. It's just with the garage, the new proposed garage being pulled up, and then it hinders that 14 feet that would be required where the 10.8.
Right, if they pushed the garage further towards the other side of the lot, they just wouldn't be able to get into it, right?
Correct. As you see in the one that was approved originally, or it's further over, and it kind of just pins that down a little bit more.
Right, unless you're in a small car. All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Reddy?
Jeff, what exactly does DTE require back there? What is their easement with?
From my understanding, they look at the furthest conductor out, and it's usually like 7.5 feet, depends on the arms of the power lines. Some are in a little bit further, and then it kind of shifts, if there's an arm that's, say, 3 feet in the property line, they want 7.5 feet, then the 10.5 feet comes into play. About 3 years ago, they used to be a typical, hey, it's 6 feet, nothing goes in 6 feet, and then there's a new guy that jumped in, like Bruce said, found the regulations and kind of, looked at it, and then now in the last probably a year, they've been kind of this is what it is, and this is
So,
what we want.
so by statute, they're allowed to set their easement based on this particular formula that they use, is that correct?
Yeah, because it's with the, I don't know the exact.
Well, I
wording for the-
think sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no
Jeff.
problem.
I think the easement is a little different than the required setback from the power lines. And sometimes there's a higher voltage in those lines and it requires it even further than the easement. The easement is just for them to work, but then they also have requirements of how close a structure can be built to a power line.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yep. Jeff, I think it was mentioned in the petition that the normal distance between the garage and the lot line is 3 feet. Do you have any insight into whether that's true with regard to this neighborhood?
Typically, our ordinance says you could be 3 feet to the side yard, and then you get 2 inches per foot for an overhang. And then typically in the backyard, it's 3 feet unless it's on a corner lot, then you gotta be 5 feet. So then with the DTE in the past, it used to be, hey, it's 6 feet. So it's typically was 6 feet, and then now with the new regulations, it's kind of pushing it forward.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Zilke? All right. Who's going to speak on behalf of the petitioner?
I think it was Zoom, right?
Yes, he was.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to state my name and address, but Bruce, Bloomingdale, 10 Salem Road, Westport, Connecticut. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think I don't really know what I would have to add to the conversation that just took place. But happy to answer any questions.
Well, we'd like to have you state your reasons why there's a practical difficulty.
Okay, yeah, I think it is because it is almost impossible to get the second car into the garage. Why we didn't do it originally, I think part of it is we just never really thought about asking for variances before. And we knew that someone else had got a similar variance, so we decided to ask for it. But I think it is that combination of DTE pushing us forward and then the neighbor just being back further than I think maybe some of the other houses. I'm not positive. But it is just sort of a jam. And we have looked for other things to try to solve it. We even thought about maybe we could start putting power lines in the ground, but that is prohibitively expensive. But I think the hardship's just coming from the fact that you have a two-car garage that you can't get one car into.
Okay, I think regarding your one comment about the fact that your neighbor's 2 feet further back than he has to be is not a disadvantage, it's an advantage. Otherwise, you'd be asked, if they were at the 30-foot setback, you'd be asking for a greater variance. So it's not hurting you, it's helping you that the fact your neighbor to the south is back 32 feet rather than 30. Mr. Morgenroth, did you have a question?
Yeah, can you talk about this angle in the foundation and what you did there, what the intent was?
I believe that the architect, who I don't have with me, but the point of that sort of weird angle is to make it even easier to try to get into the garage.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay. Go ahead.
I guess the one thing I would add is we've never put that angle on any other house we built in Birmingham.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, just a question about the timing. You know, the house in question here is already under construction and framed up. Why didn't this issue come up earlier?
So we did not fully understand the DTE requirements of that lot. We had thought it was a little different. If you look around, other people who have older houses So when we purchased the lot and began, it was just sort of, we had no idea what else we could do. The choice was build a single car garage or build a 2-car garage that you can't get into. So we chose to go down that route. Again, we build a fair amount of houses, and we've never really, we just try to go by whatever the rules are and don't ask for variances. When we heard about someone who I think has a very similar, I saw it in one of the recent meetings, the similar thing, we were like, well, maybe we should ask for it. So that's the only reason we didn't come earlier.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, anybody in the audience want to comment on this appeal? Okay, I see none. Someone want to make a motion? Mr. Hart.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve case number 2208 at 1748 Stanley. I think the appellant has done a very good job of describing the circumstances that are difficult for this this 2-car garage that has it's a very austere 2-car garage. I think you had 22 by 18 foot, probably 18 foot 8 is extremely small 2-car garage, and I think even in this condition with the 3-foot dimension, it's very challenging. It appears that the designers and the owner did make some effort to cut a diagonal out of the southwest corner of the house, and I think that strict compliance with the ordinance is would make this much more difficult to handle. The 10.8 feet from the property structure to the south is still it's still over 10 feet, so there wouldn't be any kind of fire code issue for 10 feet is a required distance between two structures, whether they're on the same property or not. I think it would provide substantial justice to the owner of the property and to the neighbors. I think that, again, that this is a unique circumstance and the problem is not self-created. Also, it's very difficult to determine what the easement is with Detroit or the DTE, and it's very it varies with almost every property depending on the configuration of the power line above. So the easement is not defined universally, and it is defined by each property in Birmingham. So with that being said, I would move to approve and tied to the drawings and documents provided.
Support. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to grant the variance as advertised. Any comments? Mr. Morgenroth.
I would just say that this particular orientation of the garage, and even in the placement they have it now with that cut in the footprint in order to give access, I think it's still going to be a very challenging garage to use. So I think they definitely have demonstrated a practical difficulty. And I could see why the previous location they had that was further from the lot line wouldn't have worked, and how this is necessary and probably still doesn't solve the problem. So for that reason, I'll support it.
All right. Any other comments? Okay. The motion is to grant the variance. Call the roll, please.
We can do a roll. We can do a vote. We can do a voice call, I believe. We don't need to do a roll call anymore, do we?
Yeah,
That's correct.
we do on all the petitions. Yeah.
I think I thought we stopped doing that.
Primer, if we did that in the
Correct.
past before the.
She said correct. We can just do all in favor.
Unless it's
Okay.
a question.
All right. All in. Okay. When we start, this was something brand new then.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we were told, yeah.
So maybe you're one. Let's confirm that. Laura, can they do a voice vote or is it roll call?
Voice votes are fine as long as all the board members are present, which they are required to be now. So, yes, a voice vote is fine.
So prior to the pandemic, were we doing the voice vote or
No.
roll call vote?
For 38 years, we've been, each
Okay.
one has to put it on.
Yeah, I remember the roll call vote.
I do too. I just remember there was discussion about doing
We
it
did
as
it
a
last meeting.
voice.
Last two, maybe.
I think it makes more sense to do
I'm happy to do a roll call vote,
Roll call, yeah.
Yeah,
and we can
but
check with the city attorney.
Well, let's do a roll
Okay.
call.
Sure, no problem. Kevin Hart,
Yes.
Eric Morgana,
Yes.
Ron Reddy,
Yes.
Gary Alva,
Yes.
Jason Canvaser,
yes.
Charles Lilly,
Yes.
Ron Miller.
Yes.
Okay, you have your variance. All right, calling appeal 2209. Well, actually, before we start that, Mr. Johnson, you really have to have the voice count, because you got to know who voted for and who voted against. So,
I know, I recall, we've always done the voice vote. I mean, not the voice vote, roll call vote.
roll call, yeah. All right, calling appeal 2209-1687, Corton.
Jeff Zilke here to present case 22-09, property known as 1687 Corton. Request the following variances to construct a new home with attached garages with an existing accessory structure. Chapter 126, Article 4, Section 4.611 of the zoning ordinance requires that a minimum side yard setback for the property this property to be 70 feet. The proposed setback of the home is 48.5 feet, therefore a variance of 21.5 feet being requested. I guess to explain this a little bit, they went down Chesterfield as the front yard, so they're using Corton and the other one as the side yards. They kind of, because now it's a corner lot, street-facing side yard, so that's where the 70 feet is being required on, I don't know the exact dimension of that lot, but for the total equals, and that's where the setback needs to be in the distance going down Corton. Variance B, Chapter 126, Article 4.03A, the zoning ordinance requires that no accessory structure shall be located in the front open space. The required front open space is 38 feet down Chesterfield. The existing accessory structure is at 36.90 feet. Therefore, a variance of 1.1 feet is being requested there. In variance C, Chapter 126, Article 4.03H of the zoning ordinance requires that a minimum area of the accessory structure of 600 square feet in an R1 zone, with an additional 75 feet being permitted for interior staircase. The required would be 675 square feet. The existing and proposed is 688.60 feet. Therefore, a variance of 13.6 square feet is being requested on the existing accessory structure. So, let me zoom in on this so we can, I know there's a lot of, so going down Corton, they're proposing to go at 48.5 feet. And the existing houses going both ways is required to be at 70 feet. So therefore, the variance of the 21.5 feet is being requested down Corton. The existing accessory structure sits forward of the house, which would be considered the front yard going down Chesterfield, for that variance of the 1.1 feet. And then the size of that existing accessory structure was over the square footage. Any questions? And
Where, the current house is there, how far is it set back from the, on Corton?
that one, I believe it's 68 feet. Now it's considerably back from what is proposed. I don't know that. I think it's 68.7, I believe.
All right, Mr. Canvasser, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just fundamentally, when somebody takes a house that's for however long had a forward-facing, well, I call it forward-facing orientation. So this one, the front door was on Corton for years, and now they want to move it onto Chesterfield. I mean, is there like a process to change all that? I mean, or you see where I'm going here? If they
No, I think the challenge with that, with the length of that lot, the challenge of the total side yard became the challenge, but with this and how they fit it, they still got the 30-foot rear setback going down, going west of Porton, or east of Porton, and meeting the front yard.
It's up to the property owner and the design team to pick the front yard on a corner lot. And sometimes, you know, on closer you get to the downtown on the 40-foot wide lots, you wouldn't be able to do something like this. But I think this one was 114 feet deep. That's close to some of the downtown lots where you can fit a front and a rear setback in there. And then it's really up to the applicant, you know, if they want to have a Chesterfield address versus a Porton address, do they have the right to do that?
Okay, and I'm sure that's an issue with the post office in terms of where the mailing address is, but there's no procedure to kind of say, listen, this is the front yard, and historically now this is the front yard. They can choose if they're on a corner lot where their front yard is going to be.
Well, you know, zoning, you know, by itself is going to help dictate that. But when you get to more or square-shaped corner lots, where you have that extra depth, I think then you have the ability to choose how you want to design that. Which do you want to have the front yard facing? In this case, is it going to be Corton or is it going to be Chesterfield? And I think when you can fit a front and a rear setback in, then that's going to be up to the property owners and the design team to decide that. And that is in the city code. It's whatever they apply for a certificate of occupancy under is where their address is going to be.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ready?
Mr. Zilke, looking at this map, it appears to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, if the existing building that they want to save was in fact not saved, would they be able to shift this back the 21 feet to avoid the need for variance A and still have the required setback on the backside of the lot?
Yes.
Okay.
And then by removing that would take out the square footage for the accessory structure and being out in the front yard.
Fair enough, thank you.
All right. Jeff, if the variance was granted as to the existing structure and say it was ever torn down and they wanted to rebuild it, would having that variance preserve their right to maintain a shed there, or would it only apply to the existing structure?
They apply to the existing structure.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Zilke? Mr. Morganroth?
Were there any versions of this particular footprint? Because I mean, I think it's a use of a strange-looking building envelope, but obviously the house is wide and has a lot of beautiful detail to it. But there's, you know, it's hard to call out a hardship when the house has so many different rooms and each room is fairly generous. Was there any other versions of this plan presented where they didn't need such a grand variance for the 70 feet or the 48 feet, I guess?
There was some talk going back and forth. We went back and forth with a few things. And I don't know if there was really a design eliminating it. I know they wanted the stately looking house on the facade. Right. I know they probably speak a little bit more of that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Miller?
Yeah, well, this is obviously an unusual situation, and I didn't quite understand it till I was out there. And, you know, that existing house is up facing Quarton. The garage is like way back on the lot. You wouldn't even think it's associated with the existing house that's there. So you can understand why you'd want the house to face Chesterfield instead of Quarton. But the house as designed needs no variances.
Right.
Right.
The house, it meets everything other than that street-facing side yard.
And it's just because mostly the changing of the orientation of this house to be on Chesterfield, the side street, instead of up on Quarton, has pushed, well, the garage hasn't moved, that old garage, but it just has, through redefining the front and side yard lots, that has sort of pushed that into a legal nonconformity.
Correct, and I think the accessory structure was some of the driven force in the layout of this house, which I know the appellant could speak of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Zilke? Okay, who's going to speak on behalf of the petitioner?
I will, Adam Speck, the owner of 1687 Corton. So thank you guys for taking the time tonight. You know, I think Mr. Miller, you hit the nail on the head there, that all aspects of the home have actually met approval and the city's approval at this point. You know, just to take you guys back with the story of how this all started. My wife and I purchased the lot 15 months ago, January 7th of 2021, with the intention of building our dream home. We lived out of state. We wanted to move back to the city that I grew up in, be close to family. And we were nervous at first buying a corner lot on Corton Road. It's unique that it's, you know, on the borders of the main road that goes 45 miles an hour. And we have 3 little kids under the age of 8. And so the original builder had confirmed with us that he had gotten variances to turn the house towards Chesterfield and to have this envelope that we actually have today. The original builder was not of integrity, and after about 90 days of working with him, we decided to part ways. I got a new builder, a new architect, but we didn't check on those original variances to find out that they actually weren't approved. And so now fast forward to today, we're ready to, you know, break ground and demo the old house and put up the new structure, only to find out that we need to get these variances approved here today. And so, you know, with it being said, being on Corton Road, you know, it is 45 miles an hour, and with 3 kids under the age of 8, the concern is obviously for their safety, but also if we do move the house down, you know, 21.5 feet, we have 8,000 square feet of land right there, almost a quarter acre of land that I would say we can't use, because I really wouldn't want my kids playing that close to Corton. You know, God forbid a ball or a frisbee or something flies in the road, that would be, you know, pretty bad. And so I don't want to put that stuff in the atmosphere, but so the whole concept was to build the house a little bit closer to the road and just not use that side of the house other than to park our cars, and have everything on the south end of the property. When it comes to that freestanding exterior structure, you know, I grew up with an exterior wood shop, and my dad and I spent a lot of time in that together. That was one of the selling points on the property, and we figured it would be hard to get a freestanding structure in the city of Birmingham like that. And so that's something that's kind of near and dear to us. The original builder assured us it was grandfathered in. We can't control the square footage of it. I think it's been there for like 20 or 30 years. And so the square footage of it and the, I think 13 inches that it's over that lot line there, it's already existing, but something that's near and dear to our family. We did look at, could you lift it up and could you move it? It would cost darn near $100,000 to do that, and so it's not very realistic in the quote that we got. I did check with neighbors. We have an email from the owner who's building across the street. I have multiple videos on my phone from other homeowners in the neighborhood that are okay with these variances, and we're excited to build our house.
Is there, why, okay, just getting to the setback off of Corton, is there any way you can just shrink the house a little bit so you don't have to have such a big variance?
We can shrink the house, move the house.
I'm not talking about moving, just shrinking the ones, reducing the size of the house. Why does the house have to be the size that you're proposing?
We can shrink the house and have, to meet the variance, we still then have 8,000 square feet, a quarter acre that is unusable. And that's the concern here, is because it goes to Corton. What I was originally told is if you build the house towards Chesterfield, which is great for the city to not have a driveway off of Corton and to have it on a side road, if you face it towards Chesterfield, you could actually line it up, since there is no neighbor to our west right now that is built, that we would be able to get this variance, or we had received the variance to have it at, you know, 48.5 feet in that sense, this envelope.
Well, it's the neighbors to the east that are causing the problem.
But yeah, well, I don't know, not intentionally, I don't think,
Yeah,
but.
no.
Yeah.
They were there before you were. Okay.
Right.
Any questions for the petitioner? All right, seeing none, you can sit down. Anybody in the audience want to comment on this appeal? Yes, sir. May I come up? Give your name and address for the record, please.
And my name is Dave Wilsinski. My wife Allison is with me. Our address is 1665 Quarton. We are directly next to this property. Okay, so we are the neighbors to the east. Where I'm up here in opposed to the proposal in front of you, particularly setback from Quarton. First place, you know, you're not from this area, so Quarton is 40, not 45. The Johnsons, who lived in the home that's there now, raised 3 children. We have 3 children. They're raised. There's never been an issue, being where we are, essentially with that setback. Essentially, when I looked at it, oh, and by the way, I had a conversation with Mr. Johnson, or Dr. Johnson, who built that garage 14 and a half years ago. He was stunned to hear that there was a variance, because he thought he had gone through hell and back to make sure that it was exactly on the line and exactly within the permitted space. So when I told him, well, no, there must be some problem, he had no idea. And I can tell you that when it was done, we had 0 objection to its location or to its size. Of course, it's on the other side of the property from us, but still, we had no problem with it. If you look at Quarton, I'll choose Cranbrook to Woodward, you know, I think it goes far beyond that. There is no encroachment of this substantial size in that setback. Everything is set back further than that. It is visible from my property, from my porch. I looked at it today again. And it would be detrimental to what I believe our interests are. In essence, the way we look at it, it's a relatively new structure. It was built by them because they just want to make the interior of their existing structure larger and put his office there. We think that it's a 2-car garage. It's a nice, substantial garage. There's a lot of land behind it still, even outside the envelope or inside the building envelope. Essentially taking that, changing the nature of it, and building a 2-car garage in the Quarton setback. It doesn't really ring well with us. So that's our view.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the audience want to comment? Okay, as I indicated at the beginning of the meeting, we'll give the petitioner an opportunity to respond if you'd like. If not, we'll proceed.
The only thing is, you know, I wish I'd known, you know, my apologies in that sense. Definitely don't want to knock down the existing structure that was built there. I think that's a great place for memories, but also we have an email from, you know, the neighbor on the other side, on the west side of the property, who's facing the property and looking at the property, that is all for it. And so it seems like a little split decision in the neighborhood there, and then others as well. But I guess it's still, if the house is pushed back, that is the yard that my kids will be playing in. And so, God forbid, anything ever happens, you know, it rests in our decision.
Question for you. Let's say the variances are denied, and the house, you decide to tear down that existing building structure and move it, whatever, roughly 20 feet, give or take, right?
Correct.
Build the same house, you just move it back.
Sure.
You have, well, I guess, I'm trying to figure out the dimensions, because I think you still have a pretty good area on the south side of the property that could be a play area, could be fenced in, and the back area on the east side as well, the kind of southeast corner. Is there any reason that area can't be used as a play area and fenced and keep the kids safe?
Correct. We looked into that. It actually is already fenced. It's sloped so aggressively, we would need to excavate out the whole back and see if we could make that work. But again, it's pretty tiny compared to the, quarter acre that we would have on the north side of the property.
Okay.
And so it sits on a hill that goes right down to that existing structure. And so we'd move it down and we essentially have a hill, and then we'd be in a situation where we could try to excavate out some of it, but you'd still be you'd have to put the basketball court or a hoop or whatever or on the north side of the property.
Yeah, no, it looks like it goes from about 767 to 773.
Right.
So I get not having a basketball hoop there. You'd have your ball would just roll down the hill. But
That's a ball return.
That's a ball return, right?
Correct.
But there is basketball hoops at Cordon Elementary, which I'm sure you'll spend many afternoons playing there as well. But I mean, you could conceivably put grass there and have a fence and have the kids running up and down the hill and all the other stuff, right?
I mean, there would be a little bit of room there. It would just still be that, the large part. That was our whole assumption in buying the whole property, was that I didn't want there to be a wasted chunk of land on Corton Road, where it's the front yard of folks facing Corton. In this case, this would be our side yard.
Besides that elevation we just talked about, is there anything else unique about this property in terms of
just the dimensions? And
all right, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All righty. Before we go to a motion, I just want to point out that it's nice to have neighbors in favor of something or opposed to something, but the fact that somebody's in favor of it or opposed to it doesn't determine whether you have a practical difficulty or not. It's not a popularity contest or anything like this. I just wanted to point that out. All right. Someone want to make a motion on this? Mr. Miller?
Yes, a motion on 1687 Corton. I would make a motion to approve, and here it seems to me what's in question isn't the house itself, but the fact that basically the house being reoriented off of Corton and onto Chesterfield has caused this existing garage, which has been there for quite a while, to suddenly be outside of the zoning envelope. And I feel that I don't see any objectionable quality to that existing garage within the neighborhood. So I think the problem was due to the kind of the unique circumstances of this property, and again, wanting to have this long lot that faces Chesterfield to be the front of the house, which is pretty reasonable, I believe. And I think that strict compliance to the zoning code would render conformity unnecessarily burdensome, again, to have to tear down that kind of nicer old garage that's been there for quite a while, that again, I believe has really no adverse effect on the neighborhood. So for those reasons, I would move to approve the plans as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Motion's been moved and seconded to approve as advertised. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Reddy?
I'm not going to support this motion. I've heard the petitioner. I certainly understand his concerns, but I just don't think that strict compliance with the ordinance would unreasonably prevent the petitioner from using the property I mean, I understand the desire to save a old building, but I think when you're building a very large home like this, brand-new home, there has to be some consideration given for the zoning requirements, and it's a compromise, I think, on everybody's part. So for that reason, I would not support this motion.
Any other comments? Mr. Canvasser?
I'm also not going to support the motion. First of all, beautiful design. I think this house is going to be a great addition to the neighborhood, and I hope you build it, but you move it. You know, when we look at the topography of the land, it stays fairly consistent through where we could have a building, this exact building actually built, if that existing building is torn down and it's just moved. If my calculations are correct, I hope they are. And then we have some topography changes from there. But, you know, every buyer has a duty to do certain due diligence when they purchase a property. I get representations are made. You know, we're not talking about a historical building here. I get there's some utility there. But I think this house can be built, I think we've heard that this house can be built in the exact same form without the need for variances. And so I think there's an issue with self-creation that the petitioner just doesn't overcome. And so for that reason, I'm not going to support the motion.
Any other comments? I'll make it. I'm not going to vote to approve it either. I don't have any problem with the garage, but I think the problem is you're tearing this house down, you're starting a clean slate, and there's been no showing why the house has to extend as far north as it does. You could build a different shaped house and still keep your garage. I mean, I don't have a problem with keeping the garage, but I do have a problem with what would be number A on the requested variance. Mr. Morganroth?
Yeah, again, I love the layout, and I think it's the proper use of this property. To do something narrow and deep would not have the same appearance that this house would have in the lot. The challenge with meeting the practical difficulty, you know, expectation for a variance, you know, for example, the two garages, one is 23 or 24 feet, and the other one is 26 or 27, two separate two-car garages. It appears that the larger one really is sized based on the size of the loggia, which I get, and I'd probably want to do the same, but the fact that one two-car garage can be 23 to 24 feet, and the other one has to be 27, which would really mitigate the 20-foot variance you need by 4 feet, just shows that there isn't a practical difficulty, but we're just drawing our ideal scenario and not taking advantage, or at least mitigating the requested variance. So I see at minimum a 2 or 3 foot reduction in variance request by just making the garages the same size. So it's hard for me to see a practical difficulty in this scenario.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, the motion is to grant the variances as advertised. Call the roll, please.
John Miller,
Yes.
Kevin Hart,
Yes.
Charles Lilly,
No.
Eric Morganroth,
No.
Ron Redding,
No.
Pierre Yaldo,
No.
Jason Canvasser.
No.
Okay, so your requests for variances are denied. That doesn't mean you can make changes, you can come back if you want to try again with the different size.
If I shrunk it by 4 feet, would you approve it then?
We're not answering that
I
question.
can't answer that question, but mitigation always helps.
Okay.
It's got to be a substantial change, not a slight change. And you ask me, what's the definition of a substantial change? I know it when I see it. It's just like pornography. Depends on the size.
I'm sure I'd use that analogy.
Wow.
That's what the Supreme Court said.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
A wow to them too, then.
I got your reference. I think that was Anton Scalia.
Yeah, could have been, yeah. All right, calling appeal 2210, 633 West Frank.
Jeff Zilke here to present case 22-10. property known as 633 West Frank, requests the following variances to place AC units in the required side yard. Chapter 126, Article 4.03A of the zoning ordinance requires no accessory structure shall be located in the side open space. There are 3 new AC units located in the side open space, therefore a variance to have these AC units in the side open space is being requested.
Yes. All right. As part of the package, we have the drawings back from April 5th of 2017, when this was all sort of being done or talked about. Had they already gotten the other 2 variances they requested? There's the one for I think it's the minimum distance between residences, and then the other one was on the eave line on the house.
Yes, there was the eave line due to the shape of the roof,
Yep.
and there was the distance between that one.
Also, combined side yard. There are 3 variances first time around for the location of the house. There was another one a year later for the detached garage.
That got turned down, right? I think we turned it down. It was for the garage. The sight line's over.
They came back, that was like a year later, but the initial variance, that there was 3, that the total combined side yard setbacks, the distance between principal residential buildings, and then also the eave height because of the butterfly, right?
Okay. So, Mr. Zilke, on the west side of the property there, well, let's not go to, forget it, does the house comply with the side setback requirements for that lot? Forgetting about the distance between.
There was a variance for the combined, so there was the side yard on that side. Actually, there is a variance for that side yard to that side property line on the west.
Okay. So.
That variance was granted before the building was constructed.
Right. All right, all right. But was that the distance between adjoining buildings, or was that total side yard setback? I'm talking about total side. Does this house, these 3 lots combined, does this house meet the required side yard setbacks?
The total, no, there's a variance for the total side yards.
Okay. So they got that one too. All right. So looking at this drawing, we got the air conditioning units placed, I assume it's would have been behind the garage, the standalone garage, 3 of them. And that was on the building plans, correct?
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, how did you find out that these units weren't there? And are in the current location?
I think upon one of the inspections, that's when it came to light.
Okay. Did anybody come in and say, "Hey, we're going to we want to move the air conditioning units. What do we have to do?"
Not that I'm aware of until they came in for the variance to ask for the placement of them being where they're at.
Okay. Any other? Mr. Yellow?
Yeah, I guess if the variance is not granted, would the next step be an enforcement action? Is that what it is?
I'm going to say yes.
You're all set?
No,
Mr. Canvasser?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. If I'm looking at the drawings up here, there's 3 AC units.
Correct.
Are those actually existing, or that's where we were told that they were going to be placed?
I believe, I know the appellant can speak of it, I believe that there's 2 back there by the garage.
Correct.
And then the other 3 that are up on that side.
So, okay, so we have 3, and I'll ask the appellant this. So they have, well, never mind. I'll just wait till the appellant speaks.
I think the initial plan from 2017 had
What are these?
all the AC units.
Maybe another
on the
set of
south
3.
property line, if I remember right.
I'm sorry, what was that, Bruce?
I think the initial plan from 2017 had the AC units along the south property line.
Right, well, I see 3 AC units here, and then I see current location of 3, so I'm trying to figure out if there's 6 total, and we have 3 and 3, or if that's where it's supposed to be. But I'll just ask the petitioner for those clarifying questions.
Right. All right. Talking about the 3 in the courtyard at the top.
Yeah. All right, so,
It's three.
Mr. Zilke,
Three. Yes.
so there was space on the south lot line, and then I guess they've got this patio here they got in now, and they put in the pool, but there's this other green space. They show an optional AC location along the westerly line, but they could also put it along the southerly line of their property, right, or up closer to the patio, whatever, if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think then maybe come into the function of the unit itself, but I'm not sure that specifically.
All right, is there a standard for saying how far the units can be from the house?
I think it's really manufacturer
Yeah,
spec, and, you know, it's
manufacturer
more how
recommendation.
close can it be, and I think with the line sets, there's a certain distance that it goes, and it's.
Like 50 feet or something?
Is it 50 feet? I think this one was maybe about 100 feet.
The manufacturer spec.
Okay, we get test with you're going to get your chance.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know you're. All right. So it varies with the manufacturer.
All
right. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Zilke? Okay. Who's going to speak on behalf of the petitioner?
Hello, I'm David Poplier. I'm with Thomas Siebold and Associates. I'm speaking on behalf of the variance for the AC locations at 633 West Frank. Yes, the original plan was for those units to be behind the detached garage. The plans were submitted, permits were submitted prior to myself and my firm being brought into the project. As construction went on, planning went on, we realized there was an issue with the locations of those. The distance for 3 of those units were greater than what the manufacturer specs were for the units. In the packet, I included the spec from Lennox saying that 80 feet is the maximum line set distance. And that's when we began discussing options to, well, we need to move them, we need to put them somewhere else. The reason they are where they are, and that there wasn't a discussion is I misread personally the zoning ordinance on the difference between a side yard and required side yard setback. And also the neighboring properties, air conditioning units are actually located right next to on their property line where ours are located too. So the reason they ended up there was basically a mistake on reading and understanding the ordinance. We've done the best we can to mitigate any visibility of the units. I enclosed some photos in the packet from the street side, the neighboring property, the south property. That would be the street side and kind of the eastern side. That's from the neighboring property directly to the west where the units sit directly, you know, on the other side of the fence, which you can see his AC unit sitting there. Those are the specs from Lennox, showing the 80 feet line set distances. And then, is there one more there, Jeff? I think there's one from the south property line. That's from the north. That's from the rear yard. That's from the southern property. There's also a fence there and also screening trees. You know, our initial and my homeowner's thoughts were he would actually prefer them behind the garage. Unfortunately, it was a issue of they wouldn't be warranted and they also would not function at that distance away. We're trying to do what we can to mitigate it. We've talked to the neighbor to the west, who it greatly affects the most. They've written a letter in support of keeping them where they're at. And I also, if you go back to the site plan, Jeff, you know, the near, sorry, I kind of, it might have been confusing if you kind of zoom up, if you guys don't mind if I go up there and point, or actually it's right here. You know, the closest area that would meet the zoning ordinance for them being in the rear yard is having them located here which is still beyond the 80 feet of, that the manufacturer would warranty or guarantee is there. And this neighbor prefer not to have them in their rear yard closer to them, because that's where their actually patio and hangout area is. That's kind of some background of where it ended up and why I'm here today.
Okay. What would you say is responsibility for determining how far the unit should be away initially? Was it the architect that screwed up, or you?
It was originally, yes, it was on the architect's plan, and also there was a mechanical engineer involved up front.
All right, so then when your company started doing the constructing, you found out that it was too far away.
Mm-hmm.
And you misinterpreted the ordinance, so you didn't ask for any, you didn't question the city whether you could do this or not?
I did not.
Okay. There's one in favor, and there are a number of letters opposing. And I have personally run into this problem myself. The problem is, it'd be nice if, geez, can't we be friends, and let's leave it where it is, because this is where my neighbor likes it. But then, if we start doing that kind of thing, then why are we here? Why do we even have the ordinance? Because if somebody can put it in either mistakenly or intentionally, and you say, oh, okay, you got it, why are we here? That's not a question, that's a comment.
Yeah, understood.
Some others have some questions. Yes, Mr. Condenser.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So if we're looking at this detached garage, there's 3 AC marks there.
There's actually only 2 back there.
No, but the drawing shows 3 up here.
That was the approved location.
Yes, that was the approved location.
And so are there any existing right there now?
2.
So there are 2 there?
Yes.
Okay, and so this is, I'm assuming, to treat part of the house, those will treat other parts of the house, correct?
Correct.
So, a couple questions. I guess the first question is, are there other options that would have the ability to, I guess, have a maximum run of more than 80 feet? Have you looked into that?
I have, and there is not, that I've been given through Lennox.
Okay. What about other manufacturers? Is Lennox the only manufacturer?
No, but, I mean, they're a large manufacturer, popular brand name.
Okay. No, that's all right. So, if you did place, so you got 2 on the side, if you placed, I guess, another 3 or however many you needed to place, what would be the to the farthest part of the house, what would be the max run that you're looking at?
Is like just over 100 feet, not including what is inside. That's just from basically the exterior portion of the building out to the location, which doesn't take into account where the furnace room is in relation to the outside wall.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. It shows a lawn area right here by the pool, right there. Why can't you put it in there?
The way I understood it is that does not, after meeting with Mike and Bruce, that it has to be beyond this portion.
Yeah, you have to get behind, well. No, I don't remember that. They could go there. I mean, because you could build your house, you could have a structure there. These can't be located in a side open space. But you're not in that lawn area Chairman pointed out, is not the side open space. That's just.
Okay, I mean, that's not the discussion I had, and
Mr. Morgenroth, you have a question?
I'm just curious, because TSA is a great builder, well-known in the market. Can you explain the confusion on the zone of no structures in side yard? I mean, where was the confusion?
One, it's the difference between required side yard and side yard. That's the part that I mistook when I read the ordinance online. You know, you drive around the city, there's air conditioners on side yards on, I'd guess, 85% of the properties. And the confusion was between required side yard and regular side yard.
Thank you.
Question.
Hey, Mr. Yeldon?
Are line set lengths a function of the strength of the condenser or the AC unit?
No, they're not. It's because both those units are the biggest units you can purchase.
So how do you get additional line set length?
I can't answer that.
Mr. Hart?
Mr. Just to clarify, I know you might have said this already. On the south side of the garage, there's 3 air conditioners sewn up. Are those existing? Are those there now?
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
Well, it shows 3, so.
Right. I think that was the original approved location of them, and it showed 3 of them there.
So there's only 2 there, and then you have option.
5. There's 2 there, and there's 3 there. There's 5 total.
Okay. In this optional AC location, what's the meaning of showing an optional AC location?
That's where I understood the nearest I could put them, and it's still over the line set length that Lennox would allow.
Okay.
Miller?
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't, maybe this is for yourself or the city, but is an option to put the units adjacent to that spa, you know, just behind that wing of the house?
Are you talking here?
Well, not on the side, but, yeah, right there, where the hand is. I mean, from the city's standpoint, would that be considered rear yard, I guess, is the question?
That would be behind the house, because the rear yard's the 30-foot rear setback, which is required, so the part on the left side here, running back, you guys see the dotted line, anything from that point back is technically the rear yard. So
and that's the way it was
everything kind of in
explained to
here
me.
is somewhat free game, because it could be structure, house.
But could that be a location for the units? It's not a side yard,
Yeah.
and that would be within the 80 feet.
Yes, there are door walls there, and that's the elevation down there is well below the normal grade.
Not easily done,
Yeah.
but within the allowable envelope.
Condenser?
Yeah, I got 2 questions. I'm curious, I know this drawing says 3, you said there's 2. But how do we go from an original drawing of 3 AC units to what appears, I guess, now to 5 total units?
That's based on after I was involved with the engineer that was involved in it, with the amount of glass in it, there ended up being 5 units.
And is there an exterior generator or any other kind of, nothing else exterior? Okay. There's no plans for that, correct?
The generator is actually in the lower level of the detached garage.
Okay.
So to try to free up space around the property, we actually put a basement under the detached garage and housed the generator in there.
Okay.
So the 2 there, the 3 that were shown on the drawing, the 2 there are functioning.
Yes.
You could put a 3rd one there? and run a line in? If the two are functioning there, couldn't the third one function there?
Well, those two air conditioning units, those furnaces are located here. And these three are all in this area.
All right, any other questions for the petitioner, Mr. Harris?
Just have one more. It's hard to tell what you have here with the, without the drawings and the photographs and everything. Is the garage, the detached garage, is that a flat roof?
It is.
Okay. And then further, Bruce, is a flat roof in the rear yard. Is a flat roof allowed to have a condensing unit on a roof?
Potentially. I mean, it would have to be screened. And on a flat roof, there may be room for a parapet there. I don't remember the exact height if it was maxed out.
But technically, it clarifies as rear yard as long as it's not visible from the side. It's rear yard then. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Morgenthau?
Just wondering, I don't know that I have enough information between only one manufacturer, you know, technically looking at the feasibility of a line set distance greater than the 50 or the 80 feet. I don't know whether or not we've looked into Carrier and, you know, any of the other commercial lines. I just don't know that I have enough information to know that what is or isn't feasible, because we're just relying on one contractor, you know, giving us information, and I don't even have it in writing. I'm just, you know, I don't know if it's a booster that's required or additional insulation of the line set to protect. I don't know what the catalyst is for distance.
They've already indicated on their drawings that they can put it back there, and we've pointed out two other areas where they can put it, so.
Right.
Do we really need to know whether, I personally, I don't think it's relevant, but, if somebody else wants that information.
Well, like you said, there's other spots they can go that fall within the distance, so if that's sufficient. I see that.
Okay, any other questions? All right, anybody in the audience want to comment? You can't. You're the owner. He spoke, he represented you.
Oh, I thought I'd just give you some color on the situation if you're interested.
Anybody want any color?
I don't think it's technical assistance.
No. Okay. No, we're all set, thank you. Anybody else in the audience want to comment? Okay. Who wants to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Wright.
I'd like to make a motion.
Sure.
With regard to appeal number 22-10, the property known as 633 West Frank, I would move to deny the request for variance. This lot is basically 150 by 130 feet. I think that strict compliance with the ordinance would not unreasonably prevent the petitioner from using the property for its permitted purposes. For those reasons, I'd move to deny the variance request.
All right, a second?
Second, and a comment for those same reasons, certainly, but I also believe that with other options available, and even an option that would ameliorate the concern of the neighbor to the west, that didn't want those units, you know, right next to their backyard, I think there are options that would not have a negative aspect on that neighbor, which is you know the one that was concerned and the one that actually supported. So again, I think again the size of the lot, the all new construction, and the possibility of other options that would satisfy zoning and the most critical neighbor, which is to the west. So I would support that motion.
Okay, Mr. Condenser?
I'm going to also support the motion. We have drawings that show 3 approved AC units. We somehow went from 3 to 5. We've also heard that there is at least one location, if not multiple locations on the property where additional units could be placed without the need of variance. And so I think for that reason, this petitioner doesn't get over the self-creation issue, amongst other things. And so I'll support the motion. I don't think the variance is justified here.
All right, any other comments? Anybody? Okay, the motion is to deny. Call the roll, please.
Ron Reddick,
Yes.
John Miller,
Yes.
Eric Morgerville,
Yes.
Pierre Yaldo,
Yes.
Jason Canvaser,
Yes.
Kevin Hart,
Yes.
Charles Lilly.
Yes. Okay. Your request has been denied. All right. Appeal. Oops. Appeal 22-12, 270 South Glenhurst.
Jeff Zilke here to present case 22-12, property known as 270 South Glenhurst. Request the following variances to construct a second floor addition to the existing non-conforming home. Chapter 126, Article 2.062 of the zoning ordinance requires that a minimum rear yard setback of 30 feet. The existing and proposed is 22.60 feet, therefore a variance of 7.4 feet is being requested. Variance B, Chapter 126, Article 4.75A1 of the zoning ordinance requires that a private attached single-family residential garage must be set back a minimum 5 feet from the portion of the front facade on the first floor of the principal residential building that is furthest set back from the front property line. The existing and proposed is 2.86 feet behind the garage. So the front facade the garage is 2.86 feet in front of the house. Therefore, a variance of 7.68 feet is being requested for B. Variance C, Chapter 126, Article 4.75A2 of the zoning ordinance requires garage doors on attached garages which are facing the street may not exceed 9 feet in width. The existing and proposed is 18 feet, therefore a variance of 9 feet is being requested. Variance D, Chapter 126, Article 4.74C of the zoning ordinance requires that a minimum distance between principal residential buildings on adjacent lots of 14 feet or 25% of the total lot width, whichever is larger. The required is 28.28 feet. The existing and proposed is 25.39 feet on the south side. Therefore, a variance of 2.89 feet is being requested. And zoom in on this. This dotted line is the 30-foot rear setback. As you can see, what is on the existing footprint of the house sticking out beyond the 30-foot rear yard setback. The 22.8 is where the variance is at the highest point, looking for the request for the rear yard. The existing garage is over here that sets forward of the front. The 2.86 feet, 6.8 feet, sorry, and which the ordinance says it's got to be 5 feet behind the building. So variance B, the garage doors are 18 foot. They're looking to keep the existing garage door. And variance D, it is the distance on the south side from the neighboring property. Any questions?
Yes. All right. So, looking at this lot, it's not rectangular, it's not square, right? The rear lot line is not parallel to the front lot line.
No.
Okay. And looking at the building envelope, the house, as it sits now, complies with the side setbacks, correct?
Correct.
For its lot.
Yes.
Now you got is there Is the lot to the south the same width as this lot?
I don't know that for sure.
Not, it's 93 feet.
We get a situation because the lot to the south is narrower, they can build closer to the lot line than this lot can, and so this is a situation we've run into where we have different sized lots side by side. One side gets to come closer, the other doesn't, and the bigger lot winds up having a problem with the minimum distance between houses.
Correct.
Right. Are they building within the existing plane of the house?
Correct. They are going straight up. They got a few. Here's the existing house, and this is what they're proposing it to look like.
And they're converting a tri-level into a quad level.
Yeah.
Okay. In the case of the garage doors, if they had have individual doors, what would the width would they have to have? I mean, can they fit it into the space that got two doors?
I think it'd be pretty tight, but I know I'll let the appellant speak of that. I think with the wings on the sides of the garage and getting the 8 inches in between, they get a 9-foot door.
Yeah. So if they have a 9-foot door, it's only 18 across. They can't get 2 and have something in between, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, just to clarify that the asks for appeals relate to the positioning of the house as it exists now.
Correct. The way the house is positioned on a lot creates the request for it.
And the new construction per se doesn't require or didn't exasperate that condition. In other words, they're just building on top of what's there. What's there is out of conformity.
Correct.
And then, secondly, this general neighborhood area, and this house in particular, I believe was built before current zoning ordinances were in place. That it didn't receive any variances to build that original house.
I don't know that answer for sure, but I'm going to say no, knowing the configuration, the way the lot.
The age of it, I mean, the current zoning started in the city in 1963, I believe.
Well, the
No,
garage
I
being
take that
5 feet
back.
back was a lot way after that.
Yeah, I mean, it's when this house was built, I don't think we had distance between. I mean, the ordinances were different at the time this was built. That's a fair statement. I don't know the exact years of when that came in.
So, and basically that neighborhood, it's an older neighborhood, and it seems to, was built before the current ordinances. At least most of them are really laid on top of that. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Organroth?
Mr. Chairman, I think your question about the 18-foot space wouldn't allow for 2 9-foot doors because it requires 8 inches in between, but as Mr. Zilke mentioned, there is wings of brick and framing on each side that would likely allow for that. And so kind of as you mentioned, it is quite a transformation. It's a beautiful transformation to a modern design from a, tri-level, but I guess I'd like to hear from the applicant, why is it that they can't enlarge the opening to accommodate that request since the space appears to be there?
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Zilke? There being none, who's going to speak on behalf of the petitioner?
Hello, Joseph Brown for the petitioner. Let me just say a few things. When we first looked at the property, it was built in 1971, and so it's been 50 years, and it was always in that footprint. And so when we spoke with Jeff, he pointed out the issues that we're going to have, and that in almost every setback, the existing structure doesn't meet. And so we just wanted to stay within that particular envelope, so we weren't asking for more of a variance. So to your point with the garage and making the garage bigger to accommodate 2 doors, we didn't want to ask for more because we're already asking for more setbacks or variances. So if we were to go wider, we'd be asking for another one. So we were just gonna stay in the same footprint. There's already an existing 2-car door there, and just switch it out for a glass door.
Basically, you're changing the roof line and you're reskinning the outside of the house, right?
Correct.
Any other questions, Mr. Morgenroth?
Yeah, so I don't know, I guess what, my point is that you're doing a beautiful transformation of this home, and it looks like a new home. And a new home in Birmingham would require 2 separate 9-foot doors. And because you aren't doing a minor amount of construction, you're doing major construction, you have likely greater than 3 feet on one side of that opening, and at least 2 feet on the other side of it. So you have 5 feet of space that you could likely, during your demo or whatever, your unskinning, we'll call it, you could open that opening 18 inches wider.
Sure.
You could put 18 inches between, you could do 2 beautiful glass doors, and at least the house appearing new would also appear to meet the zoning ordinance, which is to have 2 separate 9-foot doors. That's feasible, right?
We are not opposed to that.
Okay.
We were just thinking we'll keep what's there.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, any other questions for the petitioner? Okay. Anybody in the audience want to comment on this appeal? All right. Does someone want to make a motion, and you don't have to go for all of them at once?
I have a question first.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Canvaser.
If we approved A, B, and D, but didn't approve C, is that going to impact tying it to the plans?
We could handle that in the review process. I mean, that's, I consider that almost a minor change. The garage door total opening is going to get a little bit wider. There'll be a mullion in there, 2 9-foot garage doors.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I'm comfortable with that if the board's comfortable with it.
Tie it to the plans with the exception of the garage door.
Okay. In that case, I'm willing to make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Canvaser?
In regards to Appeal 22-12, I would move to approve variances A, B, and D. This is a pre-existing non-conforming home. None of the variances are, none of the existing non-conformities are being expanded or exacerbated. I think we have a very beautiful design. They're really modernizing this home, and they're going to keep it within the plan. I think that'll do substantial justice to the neighborhood. And I do think there is some practical difficulties here due to the unique circumstances. And so I would move to approve A, B, and D, tie it to the plans with the caveat that depending on what happens with variance C, if they decide to make 2 garage doors, that exception be approved at the city level.
Second. Second. Okay, motion's made and seconded to grant appeals A, B, and D as advertised. Any discussion? Miller?
Yes, I just had a comment. I will support, and I just wanted to add that these A, B, and D, as asked, would not negatively affect any of the surrounding properties by granting these appeals.
Okay, any other comments? All right, so the motion is to grant A, B, and D. Call the roll, please.
Jason Hammerson,
Yes.
Eric Morgenroth,
Yes.
Ron Reddy,
Yes.
Pierre Yaldo,
Yes.
Kevin Hart,
Yes.
Charles Lilly,
Yes.
John Miller.
Yes.
Okay, now you want to do D?
You want to do it?
No, go ahead, please.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion in regards to Appeal 22-12, variance request C.
D, or I'm sorry, C. D.
I know what you meant. In regards to the request for variance C, I would move to deny the request. We've heard from the petitioner that since basically the house is being, or the skin of the house is being removed, substantial construction is going to occur, that there is a way to have two separate garage doors and meet the intent and the language of the variance, and so for that reason, I would move to deny request C only.
You mean the intent and purpose of the ordinance? You said variance.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Intent and the intent of and language of the ordinance, correct, thank you.
Second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to deny appeal C. Any comments? Mr. Giallo?
I guess not much was heard from the petitioner on whether there would be a practical difficulty in needing to get the garage to conform, so I don't know if it's too late to maybe ask about that matter.
You want me to speak to that?
You can, yeah.
So,
he did say he could do it.
yeah, we were just discussing, we'll work with our structural engineer to see what that is, and then obviously work with Jeff on that. If it becomes a practical difficulty, then we'll come back.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right. Call the motion is to deny request C. Call the roll, please.
Jason Canvaser,
Yes.
Ron Ready,
Yes.
Pierre Aldo,
Yes.
Terry Aldo,
Yes.
Kevin Hart,
Yes.
Charles Lilly,
Yes.
John Miller,
Yes.
Eric Hornbaugh.
Yes.
Okay, so you got 3 out of 4.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Calling appeal 22-13-1563 Lakeside.
Jeff Zilke here to present case 22-13, property known as 1563 Lakeside. Request the following variances to construct a new single-family home with an attached garage. This address probably looks familiar to you because they're in front of you guys 2 months ago. And through the process, they found a buyer, so there's been some changes to the plans. The variance requests are the same. I will go through those, which was granted 2 months ago. So variance A, chapter 126, article 4, section 4.611 of the zoning ordinance requires that a minimum street yard setback of this property to be 46.4 feet. The proposed setback of this home is 33.4 feet. Therefore, a variance of 13 feet is being requested. Variance B, chapter 126, article 4, section 4.611 of the zoning ordinance requires that minimum street side yard setback of this property be 46.4 feet. The proposed setback for the covered porch is 27.4 feet. Therefore, a variance of 19 feet is being requested. Just kind of give a little reminder on that. There was, on the old plans, a covered porch projecting out, but it was in the required side yard. Being in the required side yard, you can't have porches, so therefore that side yard setback, that's why variance B was on here. The third variance, chapter 126, article 4, section 4.30C3 of the zoning ordinance requires that patios may not be projected in the required side open space. The proposed patio is projecting in on the west side, required side open space of 9 feet. Therefore, a variance of 9 feet is being requested. Zoom in on this. So this was the original proposed setback, the 46.4, which was required. As we go, the new layout of the house meets the setback, because this is what was granted before for variance A. And the covered porch for variance B kind of stayed in the same plane. And then the patio in the side yard. It is just, let me go to the renderings. A different look from what was granted before. And that was what was granted before. So you're going from this look. Oops. And that it would be what the finished product would be. Any
Okay, so the requested variances are exactly the same as what proposed before, but it was tied to a set of plans, and all they're doing is coming in and asking for the same variances, but tying it to a new set of plans.
Correct, with a different configuration.
Any other questions? Who's going to speak on behalf of the petitioner?
Jeff Dawkins, architect. And yes, I stuck to it very, very close to the approved footprint. The big variance was on the front of the house where the front porch is and the overall look of the house. Even if there wasn't a purchaser in mind, 35 years of designing houses in Birmingham, I didn't feel that this was appropriate. And I am a big fan of front porches. Most of my houses you'll find front porches. So the same setbacks, different configuration.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner? There being none, anybody in the audience want to comment on this appeal? I guess not. You can go ahead and sit down. Someone want to make a motion?
Mr. Hart, you want to do it again?
I think that would be fine. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion if I could.
Okay, please do.
Yes, with regard to case number 2213 at 1563 Lakeside, the appellant has demonstrated pretty much the same conditions that was presented in an earlier design, has made an update to the design, and virtually all of the good arguments that were placed in the previous submittal are being presented here with the three variances that were requested. I would move that we would carry the new approval over to the redesigned drawings that are included with this package, and have this variance request tied to the new drawings that are submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Mr. Canvasser made a second. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to grant the variances as advertised, tied to the new plans. Any discussion? All right, let's call the roll.
Kevin Hart,
Yes.
Jason Canvasser,
Yes.
Charles Lilly,
Yes.
John Miller,
Yes.
Eric Morgenroth,
Yes.
Ron Reddy,
Yes.
Gary Aldo.
Yes.
Okay, you're all set. You're welcome. Okay, board members.
Clear out the room.
We now come to, well, there's no correspondence. No, there's no correspondence, right? Mr. Johnson, we covered that before, so
Correct.
I'm going to take things out of order. Is anybody in the audience who'd like to comment on any matters not on the agenda tonight? Hearing none, then we're going to get to the election of chairperson and vice chairperson, which is something we haven't done in years. At least 3 years. I'll take it back, 3 years. All right, so we'll do like they do sort of the city commission, and we'll take nominations, and then depending on the nominations, we'll let each person make a little pitch why he would like to be the chairman. We'll do chairman first. Yes, Mr. Hart.
Chairman, I'd like to make a nomination if that's appropriate.
Sure, go ahead.
I would like to nominate Eric Morgenroth. I think we have members of the board who are stellar across the board. But and it's difficult. There are some obvious people have stepped up, and it's a difficult decision. But we have a really good pool of people that are interested in the position. They're big shoes to fill. I've done a
You're not going to nominate me? I'm actually not nominating me. Of course, I didn't express any interest, did I?
No, you did not. And I
Not
think,
for years.
I think that would have been a rubber stamp, frankly. But in that being said, it's difficult because there are some very good members of the board that would I think do a very good job in the attempt to approve to replace.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Yes. So with that, I'd like to nominate.
Okay. Any other nominations? I know Jason's interested, so I will nominate Jason Canvasser. So there's 2 nominations. So we will let both of you, if you would like, make a little presentation, and then why you should be the chairman if you wish, or you don't have to say anything.
Sure.
This is unusual because normally there's not
We're all running
2
for the-
people who want the job. Everybody, we need volunteers, and everybody's got their head down like this, you know.
Lead the fifth.
I'd be glad to speak.
Sure.
So this is my 3rd term on the zoning board. I've had the opportunity to learn from a lot of talented architects and attorneys, and obviously Mr. Lilly's guidance, and Jason and I have alternated chairing over the last year, which has been a challenging year with COVID. I think I bring to the table, those 3 terms of experience. I think I'm talented at managing the many unique characters that we have that are confronted with in our boardroom relative to the passions that people have about approving and not approving. I have a lot of building, developing, and real estate experience, so it gives me the opportunity to look at plans in a unique perspective, look at topography and those zoning things as part of what I do every day. I've lived I went to Birmingham schools. I've lived in Birmingham almost my whole life and raised my children here, and I'd like to help continue to develop the community along with the city commission in the way it was intended.
Okay.
All right.
Jason?
Yeah, well, we've certainly have had some great leadership for my entire time on here, between our chairman and, when Randy was here, we had a great 1-2 punch. And, whether Eric's chair or I'm chair and whoever is the vice chair, we have big shoes to fill. And I don't think we can go wrong with either one of us chairing and the other one vice chairing. I see things a little bit differently because I'm an attorney, and as a quasi-judicial board, I approach it more from a legal aspect. And so, I think Eric and I have a little bit different approach to the chair. Not that one's right and one's wrong; they're just different. My personal view is that the chair is more of a facilitator, somebody who has at times the need to insert themselves, and at times the need to step back and kind of monitor things. And so I will always approach things from a legal perspective to protect us from appeals first and foremost. And so that's how I view it, because the last thing we want to do is be overturned is an appeal, as a zoning board. So, but either way, I think Eric and I are going to make, hopefully, like I said, we got big shoes to fill. So hopefully we can do a fraction of the leadership we've had for just so many years. So it's in your hands, however you guys want to handle it.
What I would suggest, is there anybody else who wants to be either one vice chairman or?
I have a question.
Or both.
I guess a quick question. It's a little uncomfortable for me, having just met both of you guys and under the impression that you guys are both absolute professionals and both qualified. I didn't know that you guys had alternated chair positions. Is that
No, they're the vice chair.
We're the vice chairs.
I was the chairman. I've been the chairman for quite a few years.
Okay.
I've been on this board for 38 years, as a matter of fact.
Okay. I guess a question for Jason, how long did you serve as vice chair, or how long have you served?
They both have.
Yeah, we've both served as the vice chair for the same period of time.
Got it, okay.
So we came in as vice chairs together, and, you know, we've.
Yeah, so you were
probably
at one meeting and it was his turn.
Yeah.
And the term
I
before
see.
that was mine and vice versa. And it was really, if Chuck didn't intend to continue doing what he was doing, we were chair people in training somewhat.
Yeah.
As he also spent, 3 or 4 months out of the state.
This year it's going to be 5.
Yeah, this year it's going to be 5.
Making it even harder, yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to make it easy on us, right?
Well, I mean, part of the problem is, it's one thing when I'm gone, you start out, okay, I start the meeting, okay, now I'm turning it over to so-and-so and so-and-so. I mean,
That's good.
that's enough
It's
of
like,
that.
it's like a quarterback controversy,
Right.
So,
We got two really good.
No controversy.
We got two really good
Yeah, no
quarterbacks
controversy.
here, and it's
So
a good problem.
So it's a tough choice. We both are good candidates.
It
My
is.
suggestion would be, whoever gets the majority votes as chairman, and the other one would be vice chairman. We don't have to go through a vote for vice chairman. If that's agreeable to
I'm
everybody.
agreeable to that.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, so we'll start. Eric was nominated first, so we're going to do a roll call vote, or we can raise hands. I don't know. I guess we just Laura's still here.
Yeah.
Oh.
I am still here. I'm hoping you'll tell me how you want to do this, though.
Should we do a roll call vote? Or
Yeah,
just-
so we can.
We'll do a roll call vote. So first up, we're voting on Eric Morgan Rowan.
Yep. Well, and just, I'm assuming the two of us aren't voting for either one of us, or how do you
It
want to
doesn't
handle
matter
it?
if it'd be equal vote, yeah, it wouldn't
Well,
impact
I'm
the
just,
vote.
yeah,
Unless you want to vote for me.
Or you can vote for me.
That's
You can abstain. You can abstain.
Hardy over here. Who's on first?
You ready to do that?
No, I just wanted to know if we were supposed to be voting for ourselves or.
suggest you abstain.
Yeah, you can vote. Yeah.
That's for my benefit.
There's no reason.
Okay,
You
I'm
can
just
either
asking.
abstain or you can vote for yourself.
Okay. No, I'm just asking, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So Kevin Hart,
Yes.
Charles Lilly,
Yes.
John Miller,
Yes.
Eric Morganroth,
Yes.
Ron Reddy,
No.
Gary Aldo,
Yes.
Jason Canvasser.
No.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. So.
Okay.
All right. So Eric, you're going to be the chairman, and Jason will be the vice chairman.
We'll do it.
All right, we'll work this out.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
All right. So why
I'll
don't
call
we
and
turn
check
the
everything.
mics off? Oh, wait. We got to put you in there. All right. The motion. Is there anything else? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get off the phone.